We are doing mobile learning Ignite session, not at ISTE. I would love to be at ISTE. I went last year. It was awesome. Just didn't quite make it this year. Did any of you guys go to ISTE last year?
No.
Have you ever been?
No.
It's like crazy madhouse. There's 20,000 teachers or educators in a conference hall area. It's nuts. But we have a lot of fun. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And if you're watching, we do have, Jennifer says hi. We do have a Q&A at the top of the screen. There will be 9 little squares. You click on that, you should see Q&A, and if you type in there, I should see your questions. I will answer questions after the Ignite session. Ignites are supposed to be quick and fast, informative, and then Q&A afterwards. So I'll go ahead and get started. Hopefully you can see my screen. It should say Mobile Learning with Katie Ann Wilson. That would be me. I am also known as Diary of a Techie Chick. I do have a blog, and I also have a website that says katieannwilson.com. All my resources and information can be found on those things. With mobile learning, as teachers, we want to know which tool is the right tool. Well, with the Ignite session, hopefully I will be able to inspire. We can come up and imagine, innovate, envision, nurture, and create and find those right tools. But I have to tell you, it's not about the tool. It's all about the learning. Tools are great, but it's all about the learning, because tools, we have multiple tools that'll do the same thing, and it's for kids to get comfortable with them. They can figure out tools in a snap, so we need not to focus as educators on the tools. We need to redirect our focus and focus on the learning and the objectives. We need to give our children a choice. I like to have suggestions, but I also like to ask them what tools are they using at home, which ones do they really prefer, what tools do they think might do the job for whatever project that we do, what kind of creative tools they like. I do have kids demonstrate tools. I have the Reflector app in my classroom, and I can have up to 9 iPads up on the screen, and kids can compare the different tools. So I do have days that are sandbox days, and I let kids play around with different tools, get familiar with them. I do not teach them how to use the tools. They share what tools they like, and then they show each other. They learn best by playing and exploring. So it's great if you are a one-to-one iPad and kids can manage their own apps. But if you're not in that situation and you have to manage the apps, it's great to have maybe choices for the kids to choose. Have 2 drawing apps, have like Educreations and Explain Everything, and let them choose which app they prefer and which app they're comfortable with to get the project done. We also need, as educators, not to do the assessment on the tool. It's all about assessing the objective, their gains, and their student understanding. We should not grade how they use the tool, because how I would use the tool is not necessarily how my students would use the tools. So we need to, as educators, step back and remember it's not about the tool, it's about the objective and the gains and having students show that they understand. Tools are like shoes. They really are. You use the pair that best fits you at the time, so you're going to use the right tool for you at the time. You may use Educreations this time for a project, and you may want to do Explain Everything for the next one just because it has a little different take on the creative part or the screen capture part. You may use Toontastic and then decide Puppet Pals was better for this project. So you're going to use the tool that best fits the situation, best fits your needs. And it's great to have a choice for the kids to use. It is harder to grade projects when you have multiple kids using multiple tools, but seeing their understanding and seeing their growth is much more than just assigning a tool for them to use. It's just captures their creativity, and they get excited because they can prove to you they understand what's going on. Kids love to create, so let them create. Let them show you what they've learned. Like I said, there's so many different tools out there. Give them a choice. If they want to use a green screen app to show how the different life cycles of a butterfly are, and they're in it and they're explaining it and they got the stages right, let them do that. Let them draw out the stages. Let them act it out in Toontastic. There's so many amazing tools that are free out there. There are some that are paid. But again, if kids are managing their own apps and they want to pay for that tool, let them, because once they pay it, they will have it, and they can use it whenever. They can remove it from their iPad when they're done. They can download it again when they need it. Let's teach them how to manage their apps, manage their content, and let them create, let them show. Because when they show, they get excited and they learn. Use apps that are multi-platform. I teach my students to use the Google apps because they could touch their tablet, their iPad, their smartphone, a laptop, a desktop, and they'll still have access to all their content. There are many multi-platform apps out there, such as Evernote, the Google apps, Dropbox. All of those can be accessed on any device. So it's great to inform students about the multi-platform apps so that they can. I literally touch 26 desktop computers and in a day probably 100 iPads. So I need to be multi-platform. So do my kids. So it's great to inform kids, to let them know that those tools are out there and maybe they should start using them so that they don't lose their content, and they can, if their iPad died, they can hop onto a friend's iPad, log into their account, and get their content. So multi-platform apps are great. If it's a multi-platform app, they usually let you know. It'll say, computer, PC, Android, it'll have the Android little guy, and if it's the Google Play, it'll have the Google Play symbol, and if it's the Apple Store, I'll have the Apple Store symbol. So if they're multi-platform, the apps kind of let you know, and if you're not for sure, you can always Google that. I also like to teach kids how to save in the cloud. Because we are mobile, it's best to save in the cloud because then they can access their stuff from anywhere, literally anywhere, any device, any network. If they save their stuff in Dropbox, Google Drive, the Box, Evernote, wherever they're saving it, as long as they save it into the cloud, then they have access to their content, and then they won't lose it. I have not owned a flash drive for over 5 years. I have been cloud-based for that long and paperless, and it's great because now because I'm in that situation, I can direct and model it for my students and teach them how they can manage their own content, their own their own assignments using cloud storage, and they can access literally anywhere. If they're working on it at school, put it up in the cloud, they can go home and work on it. If they have it on their iPad, they can switch to a desktop or a laptop, just depending on what they need to do at the time. So cloud storage is great, and there's several out there, and there's a lot of it that you get free, so much storage space for free. I have multiple accounts because I have a lot of stuff. But kids, maybe pick one and let them use that one. Google Drive is great for that. And like I said, it's not about the tool. It's all about the learning. Don't worry about the tool. Give the kids choices. Have them tell you what apps they like. Have them show and tell other kids how to use them. Have sand days, play days, just so that, kids learn best by playing. We don't need to teach them how to use the tool. They're going to figure it out. They can't break the tool. They literally cannot break these tools. Either being a computer tool, an iPad tool, whatever tool. If all else fails, you can uninstall and reinstall. They may lose their content if they didn't save it, but you cannot break the tool, and you might find something really amazing just by trying it. So it's all about the learning. If that's all that you get out of this at-night session, mobile learning is all about the learning, not about the tool. Okay. Was that quick enough for everyone? We do have lots of viewers on. If you have questions, up at the top of the video should be 9 little boxes. If you click on that, it says Q&A. You click on that and type in your question. I will see it. And Cindy says, is anybody here? Yes, we're here, Cindy. Hi. Mandy is from Missouri. Molly is from Nebraska. And is it I'm going to say your name wrong. I'm so sorry. Yerby is from Arizona, so welcome. If you have a question, please feel free to type it in, and we do have a couple people in the panel plus myself, and if I don't know, maybe they might know an answer. I know I talk fast. Or anybody in the panel, Jesse, Joel, or Jennifer, if you have a question, feel free to speak up. And I will quit here. Any questions, Jesse, Joel, Jennifer? Oh, I'm sorry, Cindy, you're in New Hampshire? NH, I guess. Joe, Kansas City. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Joel.
I really like the part about giving the kids choices to present with. I always like to give them 4 or 5 options, because then their passion comes through.
Right, and I do too. For me, my 7th and 8th graders, they manage their own devices, so they can choose whatever apps they want to. With my 6th graders, I manage a cart for them, so I have, different creative apps like the Desk Draw. I have like different drawing ones, different art ones, and then like have Puppet Show, Toontastic, Prezi, the different types of ways you can present. And I let them pick.
Yeah.
Okay, Cindy, I know you're listening, so you got a question? Or Joe Park, Mr. Park from Kansas City. I'm so glad I'm in Kansas too, but not in Kansas City. If you have a question, please feel free to ask. Or if you have a comment that you want thrown in there. Do you have any favorite apps or any apps that are favorite with your kids that you would like to share? I really love Toontastic with my 6th graders. I have them. I have them play around with it, and their creativity really shines. And several of my students did a Toontastic on the Iceman, and it was amazing. They drew out the guy and acted out how they thought he died. It was a great visual. Okay, Joe. What do you suggest for developing rubric standards-based grading for kids developing understanding using different devices? When I do my rubrics, I'm looking at the content of what kids put in, not what tool they use or how they put it in. Such for like a ancient Egypt project, I look for like they have to do a pharaoh, information on a pharaoh. They have to do landmarks. So I look for the content and the facts for their projects, and then I grade them on that. For my 8th graders, I do I call it a spreadsheet test, and they have to prove to me that they know how to create a spreadsheet from the spreadsheet to the chart, and they have to do the first step logging in all the way to submitting it. And I have kids do all sorts of things between recording themselves, creating, I had one kid create paper slides, one kid create an amazing presentation and explain everything with screenshots. So I look for the content, the different steps of how to do the spreadsheet, and I have key ones that I look for. So I create a rubric around that. It does take a lot more grading time when you have kids using different device or different tools, but to see their understanding is amazing. Hopefully that answered your question, Joe. Okay. Are these apps for children? I design learning experiences for adults. I love to try activities where they use apps on their own devices. You can use any of these apps with children or adults. I do a lot of stuff with Explain Everything with the adults. In green screen, I use the Viascope app. There's a couple other green screen ones, but that one is my favorite, and it's easy for people to use. So any of these apps can be used with adult learners as well. Okay, more questions. There are so many apps. I find a need to show my students with special needs the apps and help them get started. But they do play and learn independently too. My classes are pretty much a sandbox. I'm a tech integrator. Cindy, awesome. With special need kids, you may have to direct them a little bit or narrow down their choices so that they don't get lost in playing. I've had autistic children, and I narrowed it down to one or two apps for them to pick and use. And then they usually pick their favorite one and the one that they know the best. If you're introducing a new app, you definitely need to give them sand time and let them play. Okay. Mandy, we are one-to-one iPads and giving choices was easy. Now that we are one-to-one Chromebooks, I feel choices are more limited. Any suggestions or advice for Chromebook users, especially high school? I have a Chromebook. My school is Apple, so we do not have Chromebooks for our kids, but I have a Chromebook, and there are so many apps and extensions and add-ons that you can do with a Chromebook. It's amazing what you can do on a Chromebook. My favorite ones are if you go into the Google Play Store, you can search and look at the different apps, and they'll say if they're a Chromebook extension. There are so many. There's Lego ones. There's a lot of apps. Typing Club. I use Typing Club. It's an app for the Chromebook, and then the kids can start building their apps. They could have a sheet, and they can click on which ones they want, and they can manage them that way. It is tied to their Google account or their Chrome account. The extensions, especially for like Google Docs and stuff, are great. There's extensions and add-ons for docs and spreadsheets and slides. One of my favorite one is Lucidia Press. It's like a desktop publishing, and you can create amazing documents with that. So depending on your school and your needs, I would look into the Google Play Store, and then it will show you the different extensions and apps that you can attach to your Chrome account. And just try them. If you don't like them, delete it, remove it, try something else. Do your kids get confused using different apps? Mine don't have a lot of tech, and I teach cut and paste, want them to try stuff, but not get them overwhelmed. Some kids do. That's why if they're kids that I know that are going to be confused, I narrow down their choices. That's why I have a suggestion list every time we do projects. I list a suggestion of apps to use, and then usually those kids, I tell them to pick from that list, just because I don't want them to spend 2 days trying to figure out which app to use. The kids that can't manage it, I just let them go and let them create. Hopefully that answers your question. Yes, and Cindy, thank you. Mandy, there are also a lot of web 2.0 tools out there that are web-based. The Google apps, though, are amazing. There's lots of web ones like Prezi. Think of emails for presentations. There's just tons of resources out there, and that are all web-based, and they would work great on a Chromebook. And I use my Chromebook 90% of the time. Yes. Thank you, Cindy. Bitstrips, Higher Tunes, Voki. You needed to be in here with me, and then you could be talking. Those are also awesome tools to use. But remember, it's not about the tools. It's all about the learning and showing growth. Okay, any more questions or any more suggestions before I say adios? Well, it has been great. I have another night session tomorrow over augmented reality. It is at the same time, 11 Eastern, 10 Central, 9 Mountain, 8 Pacific. So whichever one that you're in, feel free to join me. I will be talking about augmented reality for education. I also have a weekly Let's Talk AR Google Hangout that happens every Wednesday, or almost every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And I have a Google group for augmented reality for education. So feel free to contact me. Let me show my Twitter stuff one more time and so that you'll have it. My website, my blog, my Twitter, most social media, you can find me at KatieAnn_76. Oh, I have a couple questions. Hang on. Have you used comic creation apps? Yes. I use lots of comic creation apps. I have students create safety tips for internet use using comic creation apps. And if you just Google comic creators, you're going to get a whole bunch. Some are paid, some are free. There are some for the iPad. Robbie says, thanks. I was restricting choices just to help them, but was worried that I needed to open that up. Right now, I'm teaching movie making with green screen telegram. Oh, that's awesome, Robbie. I would love to see some of your students' projects. I also do a lot of green screen. So that's awesome. Oh, and Cindy said she forgot Glogster. Yes, and Glogster is an awesome web-based tool. Digital posters are amazing. I use that in augmented reality triggers. So that is awesome. Okay, well, this is Katie Ann Wilson signing off. Thank you for joining me.